Module 3, Unit 4, Planning a Response and Contingency Plan. This unit will help us to understand, to describe the process to develop a response plan, to define and understand a contingency plan. Following the coordinated assessment that took place in the affected area, and based on the findings and the gap identification, Daniel is to design a response plan that will address the most pressing issues. This is an exercise Daniel is not so familiar with, and he seeks the support of Patrick, who has been through the process several times in his professional career.
Hi Patrick, how are you? I am sure that you have heard about the terrible humanitarian situation in the Mali area. We have undertaken a coordination assessment with the WASH partners, and we are now developing the response plan. I know you have a great experience on that. Could you help me?
Of course, Daniel. That is great importance as we want to provide the best assistance to the people in need, affected by the heavy rains in the region. Let me first share with you a presentation that was developed and describes some basics.
The response planning is a process that includes the following steps. Have a careful look at the various steps that we shall need to take where establishing a response planning. Response planning is a process that takes us from the preliminary assessment to the gap analysis. After making some assumption on the planning and based on the priority needs identified during the needs assessment, we shall be able to set clear objectives of the response, to define response strategies. Based on the agreed indicators of the response plan, we shall be able to outline the project activities. In order to enable and facilitate this plan, we will work within the strategic guiding framework endorsed by the WASH platform. We will also have to be aware of the resource mobilisation opportunities, the monitoring and review plan, as well as the advocacy and communication plan. Developed with a broad range of partners, a response plan will help to strengthen the overall platform response in a number of ways. Effective response. Working together in a planned and coordinated way will result in a more coherent and, therefore, more effective and more comprehensive response to concerns, whilst helping to ensure that there are no gaps or duplication of efforts. Innovative responses. The process of developing the strategy, bringing all relevant actors together to identify shared objectives and mutual strengths, can also help find creative ways of overcoming obstacles. Sustainability. Avoiding gaps and addressing overarching concerns, together with local and national counterparts, ensures the sustainability of the response. Access to resources. Raising funds for activities can be more effective when approaching donors together and presenting shared objectives. The strategy often forms part of the interagency planning or fundraising process, such as the Common Humanitarian Action Plan, CHAP, or Coordinated Appeal Process, CAP. Measuring impact. Measuring the impact of interventions in a short span of time is difficult, but setting benchmarks or indicators can help to evaluate how the response has improved the situation and if the interventions are appropriate. Continuity. A strategy can help to ensure continuity in an operation, especially in situations where there is a high turnover of staff. Ideally, the planning process will be led by the national government WASH partner in conjunction with the WASH lead agency and the WASH coordination platform. It should be facilitated by a smaller steering group, such as the Steering Advisory Group, SAG, to enable faster and more efficient and effective decision-making, while ensuring that WASH actors are properly consulted and kept informed. There should be equitable representation of those affected by the WASH response plans. There are 3 major steps to consider while developing a response plan. Identifying and filling gaps. Improving the coverage and the predictability of humanitarian response through identifying and filling gaps is an essential part of the coordination approach. Prioritizing identified needs. The purpose of prioritization is to ensure that WASH action is focused on the most pressing needs for the greatest number of affected people, whilst targeting particular needs of the most vulnerable. Outlining response strategies. Response strategies are the methods taken to agree WASH priority needs and achieve the WASH objectives. Define indicators for monitoring the response. An important step that needs to be taken while planning a response is to agree on SMART indicators. These need to guide the focus and standard of WASH partners' actions and form the basis for measuring WASH platform progress, outcomes and impact. Outlining WASH cluster projects and activities. Projects and activities within the response plan will be drawn from planned and ongoing activities of WASH partners and the agreed WASH response strategies. For developing a response plan, the WASH Platform Coordinator will play a crucial role, especially in advocating with WASH partners to fill the gaps, raising awareness of gaps and capacity shortfalls through the media, etc., seeking support from other sectors, government agencies, the military, if applicable, or the private sector. In the case of life-threatening needs which cannot be met by WASH partners, it may be necessary to approach the WASH lead agency as the provider of last resort. Seeking the support of the information manager for the task. Some challenges that you may meet on response. Developing a response plan. Plans become outdated and/or inaccurate. Plans are unrealistic, including too many activities which cannot be achieved within the time frame or in the local context. Plans are inaccurate due to inadequate or ineffective investigation, verification, and analysis of data. Plans are not accepted or owned by WASH actors or affected communities due to inadequate consultation and communication. Plans are seen as biased in favour of the CLA or more powerful WASH agencies because of inadequate stakeholder representation. Plans are not understood because they use inappropriate language or terminologies, or lack relevance to the context. The majority of changes can be addressed by regular consultation with stakeholders and equitable representation on steering groups, based decision on evidence and continuous review and modification to ensure that plans are flexible, realistic and appropriate. Let us share some tips in response planning that a coordinator should always keep in mind whilst developing a response plan. Avoid being overambitious. It's easier to scale up activities over time. Adopt a phased or incremental plan in the immediate response. Keep it simple. Keep priorities and objectives to a minimum. Plan around available and confirmed capacities and resources. Take changes to context and the longer-term perspective into account. Ensure mechanisms to include all groups and partners in consultation, therefore ownership and accountability. In a situation where the WASH platform is established, activities on preparedness will also be required as part of the duties of the WASH platform coordinator, one of it being contingency plans or CP. It provides an outline of the likely response requirements in the event of a subsequent disaster or emergency. In some instances, the contingency planning may be combined with the response planning process, or it may be undertaken separately, but preferably by the same steering or advisory group. The WASH platform will be entirely part of the process that will include identifying potential hazards and associated risks in conjunction with the SAG. Use scenario building to assess the potential impact and consequences of the hazards identified. For each scenario, outline the trigger factors, risks, assumptions, specific objects, and suggested response strategies. outline specific WASH platform preparedness measures that might be required, for example the monitoring of trigger indicators, training or simulation exercises, regular security assessments, collaborative operational agreements. Disseminate contingency plans and preparedness procedures to partners and other stakeholders. Incorporate associated financial resource requirements into funding appeals. Take action to put any necessary agreements in place, for example warehousing, emergency ports clearance, secondment of government staff and equipment, etc. Designated individuals or working groups, for example logistics. Establish a system for ongoing monitoring and review of contingency plans, steering groups.
Thank you, Patrick. In our situation in Mali, I understand the first thing I have to undertake is the development of a response plan. I should keep in mind, when the crisis is over, that we work on a contingency plan. That would ensure that the WASH platform would be better prepared for a potential new crisis.
That is actually a good idea, Daniel. You should liaise with the OCHA on this initiative that an intercluster CP will always be more efficient.
Thank you for this last piece of advice. Point taken. I will now prepare the outline of the response plan, based on the platform assessment findings.
Good luck, Daniel, and do not hesitate to call should you need more support.